If I had to pick two qualities that people want most from a recipe, I'd have to go with, well, something that's delicious
Duh.
and something that's easy to make. Well, you're in luck because today, this will rival even your best cake recipe.
I prefer a flan.
This is Kitchen Serious. This recipe will use caramel sauce, so you can of course just buy it, but I'm also going to take you through how I make mine. It intimidates a lot of home cooks because they probably had their share of failed attempts. Worry not, because I'll show you if things go south, you can recover, rather than starting all over again from scratch. We'll start by getting our saucepan on medium heat. To this, we'll add 1 cup of granulated sugar and a 1/3 cup of water. It's okay to add a little extra water if you feel you need to. So a few preventative steps you do now will make a massive difference in how smoothly this process goes for you. The idea here is that we want all the sugar to be mixed with the water on the bottom of the pan, with no sugar granules hanging out on the sides. Let's look at the steps I go through. After you put your sugar in, shake the pan to level it out. Now when you add your water, pour it in a circular motion around the outside of the pan. You'll see eventually that the water does work its way inward. You can even swirl the pan around to help it along. Remember to keep the sides free of any loose granules. One popular method is using a brush dipped in water, and you just brush the sides to make sure no granules are on there. Another option would be just to cover this, and the steam actually runs down the sides and washes your sides for you. Now, as the heat comes up to medium, you'll start to see the mixture bubbling and becoming a clear syrup. If you've done your due diligence, you'll see no crystallization forming. To show you what you don't want, I made another batch where I purposely let it crystallize by allowing the melting syrup come in contact with dry granules that were on the sides. This sets off a chain reaction that probably looks familiar to folks who have tried this before. Some of you might have even tried to stir it up to help it melt, and, well, only making things worse. Well, if this happens to you, don't throw it out and start over. Just add more water. Wipe the sides down and wait for the mixture to eventually become that clear syrup you wanted in the first place. Water is just a way to help the sugar melt, guys. It will eventually all evaporate anyway. So the amount you need to use to get all your sugar melted is really unimportant. Obviously, the more water you start with, the longer it'll take. I've found that 1/3 of a cup in the beginning is a good amount. So back to the clear syrup stage. Once you get this and all the sugar is melted, you can increase the heat slightly and wait for the mixture to start caramelizing. You'll be able to see and smell this literally in just a few minutes. Once it starts to get some color, it'll all happen quickly, so don't go anywhere. At this point, you can swirl the pan around to ensure your caramelization is even. Once you get a deep caramel color, which in my experience is always darker than you think it should be, pull it from the heat. Now we'll stabilize our sugar with 3/4 cup of heavy cream, 2 tablespoons of butter, and a healthy teaspoon of kosher salt. Be careful when you're adding the cream because it will sputter. If you notice here, I actually left this off the heat longer than usual because I was moving my camera around. As a result, you can see this got super clumpy. Don't panic. This has never crystallized, so all we need to do is return it to the heat to bring it all back together. Once it's all melted, you'll probably assume that you screwed up the measurements because it'll be very runny. This is completely normal. It'll get to that awesome caramely consistency as it cools. So we'll set that aside and let it cool down while we pull our flan ingredients together. First, you're going to preheat your oven to 350 or 177. This recipe makes the perfect amount to pour into a standard bundt pan. Whatever vessel you choose, make sure to spray the sides beforehand. Now we're going to take our caramel sauce and pour it all along the bottom and sides. I like to just pour it on the bottom and then tilt it around to get the sides. This caramel recipe does make quite a bit, so if you want to save a half a cup or so for other uses, go right ahead. Now in a large bowl, we're going to combine 3 cans of sweetened condensed milk, 1 can of evaporated milk, 1 can of coconut milk, a teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon vanilla extract. Lastly, it's not a custard until you get those eggs in there. We're going to use 6 eggs. Now give this a thorough mix and pour into your pan with the caramel sauce. Cover this with some foil and pop it into the oven. This will now bake for around 1 hour 40 minutes. So if the outside looks set after the time is up, go ahead and pull it out. Depending on ovens, you may need to give it another 5 or 10. Since we're using like half a dozen eggs, it'll continue to cook and set up after it's out of the oven. So let this cool for at least 30 to 45 minutes. While it cools, you can toast up a little flaky coconut for the topping. I prefer to use unsweetened because the flan will have quite a bit of sugar. You can use any pan for this. I just preheated my wok to medium-high heat and frequently tossed it to get a nice toasted color. Alright, once it's cooled, we just gotta get it onto the platter. Set your platter on top of the pan and then give it a quick flip. You'll hear a satisfying plop as the flan releases from the pan. I don't know why I like that so much. Now you're left with a beautiful golden brown ring of flan ready for the final toasted coconut topping. If you can wait that long, it should be refrigerated for at least 3 hours or preferably overnight, so it's not only set but nice and chilled. This is an awesome addition to a large festive gathering, and I guarantee it's going to please all the coconut lovers in your life. And if you can't wait to make this, here is your shopping list. So thanks for hanging out in Kitchen Serious, everybody. I will see you next time.